Special thanks to these companies for being long-term partners of this channel. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Zach. Here we talk about overlanding and builds and gear and overlanding trails, all those sorts of things. And so today we're going to be talking about a pretty sweet modification that I thought that was kind of creative and I tried to come up with. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be installing some Diode Dynamics SSC1s in your grill, so they kind of look like Raptor lights or grill lights, but they also will function and be quite bright and sort of emulate, not really a light bar, but you're gonna have some pods there that give off light, kind of like a hidden light bar that a lot of people would do behind your grill. So it's gonna have a lot of lighting functionality there, as well as just giving the cool aesthetic of being very similar to Raptor lights or grill lights. So I'm calling these the functional grill lights, and now people can't give you any sort of grief anymore for having grill lights on your 4Runner, because they definitely will serve a purpose. And the Raptor or grill light feature or function that they have is really just going to be sort of a side benefit of these. So let's jump right in. I'm going to do a little unboxing of the products we're using and kind of the mount that I'm custom making that will be still very easy to do. So don't worry if you need to do this at home as well and you don't have a lot of tools. But we'll kind of talk through all of that, and then we're going to install it on the vehicle, and I'll show you what it looks like all set up. So with that being said, if you're thinking that this is maybe out of your budget, there's definitely going to be a more expensive and a more affordable option here. And for what you're getting, it's really not too bad considering the cost of just buying a typical grill or Raptor light kit. I think this is really reasonable and a great bang for your buck, as well as being quite functional. So let's jump right in. So I'm calling this basically the purposeful or functional Raptor light system, or grill light system, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people say that the grill lights look kind of dumb on 4Runners, or they just kind of like to chirp them or roast them a little bit. But I think this is going to be a sweet option, and it's actually going to give some functionality to those lights. So the next time someone maybe gives you some grief for it, you're going to tell them, well, they're a lot more than just Raptor or grill lights. So what we've got here is we've got 3 SSC1s and just the sport model, or the lowest tier. Each one is a spot with white light, and the backlight is a amber light. So the goal is these 3 will be wired into my 30-inch light bar that's in my bumper. And so when I turn on that light bar, these white lights will turn on. But then when I don't have the bumper light turned on, then they'll just be running their daytime running light or that amber light. So they're going to look through the grill like Raptor lights, but then they'll actually be basically a functional light bar, so to speak, or not really a full light bar, but obviously a bunch of little pods behind my grill. Now, this might also be a really awesome option for some of you out there that don't even have a light bar, because these 3 lights are quite bright, and you could buy them in a higher tier model where they're even brighter. So where a lot of people would do like a hidden light bar mount, these could very easily be sort of hidden light behind your grill, and they'll be those Raptor lights, and they're a pretty good price. So at the lowest tier sport ones, they're $60 a piece or $120 for a pair. And if you buy them in a higher tier model, they're going to be a little more expensive, but it just kind of depends on what sort of look you're going for. So stick around, because I think these are going to look really awesome. But just to do a little unboxing here, when you open up the packaging, these boxes are designed for a 2-pack, but we just get some instructions, a sticker, and then the light itself. Under the light, we've got some hardware and a little wiring harness and the bracket. So not a whole lot comes in a given box, but if we just empty this out a little bit here, here's that 3-wire harness, which one is for the DRL, one is for the hot, for the white, and then there's the black wire for ground. We've obviously got the light itself, and then comes with a little bracket here and a small thin screw which goes through the bracket. There's a locking nylon nut, and then a carriage bolt for the bracket to mount to whatever mounting location you're using, which is a carriage bolt, a flat washer, a lock washer, and then a nut. And all assembled, it looks just like this. So here's that nut. So typically, if you were going to mount this anywhere you felt like, I guess, or where you would typically, and you're not kind of designing your own mount like I'm doing, they recommend that you angle it backwards like this, because then you can point it down, you can point it up, whatever you want to do. However, with ours here, I'm going to have it pointing forward, so it can't point down as far, but that's okay because we want this to mount as close as we can to the front. And you'll see where we end up mounting this aluminum bracket. That's going to be very important because we want this light to be very close to the grill itself so we can see that amber DRL. So that's why I have it pointing this way. I've just got this plugged in here so that you can kind of show what it's going to look like fully assembled. So, and then here is the spot lens. I think it's a pretty sharp looking lens. So I'm really excited to get these installed on our bracket. So how we're going to mount this is we're going to use this piece of aluminum that I have left over from the C4 fabrication, like LED bar brackets I had to make. But I've got a big segment left because it was basically, you know, not too much extra to buy it in a 48-inch length. And so what we're doing is we're cutting a 24-inch length out of this. And to keep all of the lights level and to keep a nice mounting surface for all the lights that should hopefully keep it fairly uniform, we're going to cut this whole segment out, and I've got 3 holes for all 3 SSC1s. Each light on the sides is going to be 2.5 inches in from the edge, and then the one in the middle will be, you know, at 12 inches, so it's centered. And that's basically the bracket. It's not too complicated, and in order so this doesn't stand out too bad, we're going to put some black spray paint on it at the end, you know, after I've drilled all the holes and cut the end. But aluminum works pretty great because it's lightweight. It shouldn't rust, and it'll maybe corrode a little bit, but it shouldn't do that too bad if I put a coat of spray paint on it. So after we rough it up a bit and throw some paint on there, it should look quite nice behind the grill of the 4Runner.
Okay, so you're probably thinking that this looks like a bunch of madness going on here, and who knows what the heck I'm doing, but we've got all 3 lights here, and I've stood them up because I can kind of send the heat shrink down these wires, and it's really handy. So I've just soldered all of these 3 wires to just some extra wire that I have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a red and black wire to my switch pros, and then I'm going to run a single wire from these blue wires here to the previous grill light. And so that's what we're doing here is we're just hooking this up. The blue wire goes to the backlight, and the backlight only uses, I think it's at 0.024 amps, whereas the red wire uses 1 amp. So if we look at that, that means that this blue wire is using 2% of the amperage as this red wire. When you look at wattage, it's a function of basically your voltage and your current. And so since there's such a low current going on here, I don't really think I'm going to have any problems with this wire having like a large, you know, gauge here, where this wire, you know, is a lower gauge, and so it's meant for more power, but the wire that I'm feeding it with from the previous Cali Race LEDs is smaller. I don't think it's going to be an issue though, because this is drawing such small amounts of current. So now I just need to solder all of these to these short little jumpers I have, because it's kind of like a 3Y split, and then they'll all connect up to this. But it's much easier to solder this short little wire to each one rather than doing, you know, all of these 3 wires connected to something really long. So we're going to keep on going, and I'm going to just keep on soldering. Alright, so we're a little bit farther here. I've got all of these shrink wrapped and soldered, and then we're going to just put some electrical tape around all this to try and keep it a little more protected. And then we've got the big Y up here where I've soldered all the blue, the black, and the reds together, and each one has their own wire. One that's going to go to the wire for you know, the daytime running light, and I'm just using the red wire in this dual wire, but it's jacketed, so it's nice wire. And then this is the other connector with little, you know, normal hooks so that I can hook this into the switch pros. And I'm going to hook this in the same spot as my light bar because I want these to turn on with my light bar. So that's the plan. We just got to clean up all this, make everything insulated, safe and clean, and then we'll start mounting this all up to my spray painted bracket. So I told you all about this 24-inch bracket that I was talking about when I was doing the unboxing. I drilled all 5 holes and then just threw a coat of black spray paint on it. So now we're going to mount this up. Also, I'm using some 5/16 by 1 inch grade 5 bolts. The rest of my hardware is grade 8. I always like to use grade 8, but they didn't have the bolts I wanted in stock. And it appears that they use grade 5 hardware on the actual brackets for these SSC1s. So the point of failure will be these bolts anyways, so I figured grade 5 will be just fine. So now we just gotta, you know, like I said, clean a lot of this stuff up, start screwing stuff together, and we can start mounting this to the vehicle and running wire. Okay, so I actually realized that right here in the middle it mounts to this, and this blocks this light if you're gonna put it in there. This hardly is, you know, structurally important, so I don't really care about it, but maybe you will. Anyways, I'm going to remove it. I took off the front grille here, and all it is a bunch of tabs along here, and then a couple clips, one right there, and then obviously this anchoring. It hooks in on the ends right here. There's some little tabs, but I've basically almost broken those just by taking it on and off so many times, so that wasn't a huge issue. And this is what I'm talking about right here. So if you can see that, basically we have this plastic part that mounts in, but it's actually blocking the light. So I'm gonna cut this whole thing out, and I have a Dremel, but not right here, so I'm actually gonna cut this plastic with my soldering iron. It's gonna make a mess, but I'll just file it all down. So let's do that. Alright, so I got that back portion cut out, and yeah, it does look a little bit jank, but from the front you can actually not really tell I even cut it out. And I'm actually happy that I cut this out, because if that was just staying in there, you know, the middle light wouldn't have this upper section to shine through. So now we're gonna have symmetry with all 3 lights. So this looks great. I think we have the clearance we need now. Now I'm just gonna put this grill back in and then start mounting up the lights. They're just laying in here and ready to go, so let's get to that. Okay, so for each side there is a clip that's right here, but then there's the hole we're actually using to mount. And so that clip raises this up a little bit, so we're gonna throw one washer in here in between this mounting bracket and this plastic. If it doesn't clear that spot there, then we maybe will add 2 washers. So I'll throw on the screen what I actually end up doing, and then hopefully it clears and everything fits nicely. Alright, so just a first look. This is what it looks like during the daytime. And then if we turn on the LED bar, they all turn white, just like the LED bar does. And wow, that looks really cool.
So I really think those turned out awesome. It's something that I was, you know, thinking, man, there's got to be a way to mount some pods behind the grill so that you could have both, you know, some decent light output, but then have a backlight that looks like Raptor lights. And so I think we really achieved that look well here. And I hope that was, you know, beneficial for you, or you brought any value away from that. So if that video did bring you any value, really consider liking the video, because that helps me and it helps the channel grow. And by growing, I'm able to continue to make good content. Additionally, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell, because that's gonna help you tune into new future content. And sometimes YouTube isn't the greatest at promoting smaller creators such as myself. And so that will ensure that you're able to see my future content. So thank you so much for watching. Like always, I appreciate the support from every single one of you, and I'll catch you in the next video.